Hi everyone, just a quick little video to introduce Nikon. Have brought out a couple new lenses. One is a monster and another one is an odd one for me. If you go into for example, the Nikon, nikoneurope.com and click on Nikkor lenses, and then I'm going for the autofocus lenses here, and far down near the bottom we've got an old-fashioned, oh well, not an old-fashioned, but a lens which was out quite a while ago, the 18 to 35 f3.5 to 4.5 Nikkor zoom. I'm just going to click on that one, and they've updated that. They've upgraded it to something which is exactly the same, but it's got AFS at the front and it's got a new kind of construction to it. So what you lose from the old one is you lose that aperture ring. So if you're maybe moving the lens onto a Canon camera, or if you're wanting to just have, manual control over the aperture from the lens, then you don't get that anymore. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but that's usually not much of an issue, because the new one, it should mean that it's much faster focusing and it should just be a little bit better. Also with this new one, it's got a bit more weather sealing to it. So if you're out in the rain, don't worry about it. Now the thing about this new one is that it's saying it's got 2 ED, extra low dispersion glass elements. So 2 bits of glass in it which are super duper mega brilliant. Compared to the previous one, which had 1 ED glass element. So it's got 1 more bit of glass element in it, and it's saying that it's optimized to digital SLRs. So the previous one was more optimized for film, so this is optimized to digital SLR. So I'm just going to have a little look at some of the specifications. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is this thing called the MTF charts, which effectively tells you how good a lens is at resolving certain things. If it's up at the very top here, then that's saying it's super sharp, absolutely perfect. This line here is what's considered to be the center of the image. So right in the middle, that's usually where it's always the sharpest. And as you go to the edges, then that's where sharpness starts to decrease, just because it's having to bend stuff around. So that's where, if you get macro lenses, they're usually very sharp all the way across. Telephoto lenses, again, are usually sharp all the way across. But the wider you get, is usually the more pronounced downward angle that they go at. And so they're saying that this one, which is 10 years newer, is optimized for digital SLRs. But I'm looking at, over here, I've got the MTF chart of the previous one, and there is very little difference. Okay, so in the center is definitely sharper. In both categories. Well, I think one category is sharpness and the other one is contrast. So it's definitely better a little bit, but at the edges it still goes down to almost 1/10 of the sharpness and 1/10 of the contrast, or whatever it is, all the way down here. Granted, it is a little bit better than the old one, which goes right down to 0. So the edges of the old one must have been absolutely pants. Now that's at the wide angle, and also these MTF charts are always at the maximum aperture. So remember, it's this at wide, this is at 3.5 or f3.5. So it's not like it's having to go wide like 1.4 and stuff, because the wider the aperture, or the bigger the aperture, usually the more difficult it is to bend the light round it and all that kind of stuff. So here, again, it's kind of like, right, it's pretty much, once you're getting to the last quarter edge of the frame, it's going to be a pretty guff image, it looks like, even in this new one. And in the telephoto part of it, so as you can see, it definitely, as you zoom into 35mm, the lines are a little bit higher. They're a little bit, stay a little bit higher and everything. So that's better. So the more you zoom, the better this lens is. But however, this will be at f4.5 now. So the aperture's got a little bit smaller. That's about a stop between 3.5 to 4.5, around about that. If we go to the old version, as you can see, okay, so the center wasn't as sharp. So this new lens that will come out will definitely be sharper in the center. And it looks like, what I'm really getting at here is that, yes, it looks like it's sharper in the center, but for what is 10 years worth of evolution, of workmanship, of new glass technology and all that kind of stuff, it's not it's not making me go, oh my goodness, this is a revolutionary lens here. Wow, that's amazing. Must go get it. It's kind of like, it's kind of the same, newer body, better aperture, better focus speed, better build construction, and slightly better image reproduction in the center of the shot. However, the edges still a bit guff. And as you can see here, this is the kind of lens to lens showing you where the bits of glass are inside. So the aspherical lenses, so aspherical are the opposite of spherical. So spherical is just a normal curve. Aspherical is the opposite of a normal curve. So like a ball is spherical. So if you put a bit of glass on the top of a ball and it curved around it naturally, then that's spherical lens. Aspherical, because you don't want the lens completely bending, it does something else. Anyway, not important. But what you can see is that there's two of those at the front and one at the back. So that's good for controlling. That should be good for controlling stuff like chromatic aberration. It should. Whether it does, we'll have to see. And the ED glass, you can see in the old one, it just had one there. This has now got 2 bits of ED glass in there. So yeah, but it's roughly still the same kind of shape and construction, all that kind of stuff, but they've just added in extra bits of sexy glass. The new one looks like it'll be able to take filters on the front quite easily, and it works. It should be working absolutely fine on both DX and full frame cameras. If it's my opinion on this though is it's a bit of an odd one to bring out. It's kind of a not super wide, and there's a bit of a not great aperture range of 3.5 to 4.5. Meh. It's not great image quality. But what about the price? You know, if this is coming out going, actually it's a pretty cheap price, then that's good. Let's have a little look for that. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be an official price for the new one yet. So I'm just seeing the old one we can get on Amazon for just under £500. That's actually quite an expensive lens for what it was. The new one, I'm trying to find it out, and it looks like, at the moment, $750. So, price-wise, that's probably about the same, as long as that doesn't come over to the UK and being £750. It's a bit of an expensive lens though. It's not something which it's not something I'm going to be putting into my Amazon store of recommended lenses for anyone. I don't know who would buy that beyond maybe like a second-hand better lens than that. Bit of an odd one. The other lens that Nikon brought out anyway is a monster. Check out this beastie boy here. This is the 800mm f5.6 VR uber duper lens. Wow, what a monster. Okay, full frame lens. This is very much for super duper far away like this lens I reckon you'll see at golf tournaments. People like Tiger Woods hitting a golf ball, somebody will be at the other end of the golf pitch, golf course, something like that, track, where the pole is, and they will be able to get shots of him teeing off with that kind of lens. And I think it's also saying it comes with a teleconverter as well, or dedicated teleconverter, the AFS 1.2, so added an extra quarter to it to make it a 1000mm lens. What an astonishing lens! And if we if we look at its MTF charts, obviously it's only 800mm, so it doesn't zoom, so it's just one. As you can see, whapang, that is a proper lens. Now this one's going for $18,000, possibly £18,000, if not probably about £20,000 once we've added on our extra taxes. But just wow. If you see anybody doing that, A, they're going to have to be very strong, or B, be carrying it around in a buggy because it's so big. Like it wouldn't even be nature photographers at all, because I would just be too big, too heavy to carry that around anywhere. It would just be such a monster. You know, the amount of effort it would take you to get it out of its box and onto your camera and onto a tripod, you would have scared away every bit of wildlife animal for hundreds of miles. But definitely, I think big sporting events, somebody will have that. Maybe not tennis, because that's too close up. Football, possibly. Yeah, football. What other sports are done from far? Rowing. If you see people rowing boats. Skiing, maybe as well. You know, long distance stuff. But that would be an astonishing lens to see that going. And a bit of the lens hood on it as well would make it just such a monster. So I advise everyone to buy that. I think that's a very good lens, and maybe not for the beginner, but definitely intermediate. Okay, so that's just a little info for you guys. I hope it helps. Cheers, bye.